But first thing I'd like to do is get introductions to the panelists and let them tell us a little bit about who they are, where they're from, what they do, and that way you'll know a little bit about their background when they respond to some of the questions I'm going to fire at them in a few minutes. We'll start on the left-hand side with Adam Greenfader. Go ahead.
I am managing partner of AG&T. We're real estate developers and advisors to developers. I currently chair the Caribbean Council here in Miami at the Urban Land Institute. We actually have several Caribbean events coming up. On May 8th, we have a Caribbean Roundtable in Brickell. If you want to continue this great excitement about the Caribbean, please join us. And we also have on August 1st a Caribbean hospitality event in Miami. I'm really excited to be here, and I appreciate the invitation from the agency and really looking forward to learn more about Turks and Caicos and the other projects.
And next we have Stephen Wilson.
Good morning, everybody. I am Stephen Wilson. I'm a partner at the law firm of Graham Thompson. Graham Thompson is the oldest and probably the largest law firm in the Bahamas. We're celebrating our 70th birthday this year. We opened our first office outside the Bahamas in the Turks and Caicos Islands 6.5 years ago, and I head up that office with my partner Chris Wells, who's sitting over there in the booth. I am a litigation attorney, but I have dealt with a number of projects in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and many of our clients are the leading hotels in the Turks and Caicos Islands, developers, and obviously people coming in looking to buy property in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Next we have Anders, and forgive me if I pronounce your last name wrong, Bocheberg?
Good enough.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Anders Bogeberg. I'm a former tour professional golfer. I've been the last 15 years in the Dominican Republic, specializing in luxury tourism and real estate down there. For the past 10 years, we've gone into property management, and we currently run about 40 luxury homes in a rental program in the Dominican Republic. So anybody that has any questions about tourism or wants to get anything done related to real estate in the DR, I can definitely help you guys out. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So myself, I'm Jim Andrews, or James Andrews, with Integra Realty Resources. IRR is a valuation and consulting firm. We have about 50 offices in the U.S., and I run the Caribbean office, or offices, I should say, the Caribbean franchise. I'm based in the Cayman Islands. I've been there 22 years. We have offices as well in the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and in the Bahamas too. So we cover the region with valuation and consulting projects, commercial real estate, going concerns, a lot of hotels and things of that nature, some residential resort development. We do feasibility studies, development consulting, and that type of thing. So, and I appreciate the opportunity as well. So we'll get started. First, I'd like to, obviously we have a geographic disparity with our panelists, and so diversity, I should say. So we'll start with a little bit about Puerto Rico. So Adam, you know, one of the things we've heard a lot about Puerto Rico these days is the tax incentives for being able to, for Americans to go and live there and invest in real estate, Act 20 and 22. Maybe some of the participants here may not be as familiar with that. So can you start off with that and explain what it is, how it works, and what advantages there are?
Quick question. How many people have been to Puerto Rico? So almost more than half. Anybody currently investing in Puerto Rico? So one. Good. Well, hopefully we can get a 100% increase in that number after today, at least. Puerto Rico today is undergoing a major revolution. It's an island that for 40 years was stagnant and really didn't change. And in the last 12 months has seen more change and more major infrastructure, financial, physical, social, and economic changes that some are even comparing Puerto Rico today to the new Cayman Islands. Or if you listen to John Paulson, he says Puerto Rico today is Miami in the 1980s. Obviously, Puerto Rico has been known for high risk. It's in crisis, it's in bankruptcy, it's an island that has no electrical energy, it's got the current president that's angry with the Puerto Ricans, and we all know about that risk. But Puerto Rico today is also a land of huge opportunity. And you don't just take my word for it, take the 250 high net worth individuals that have been moving to Puerto Rico every year for the last 5 years. And when I say high net worth, it's not people that have $100,000, $200,000 in the bank. It's people that have $100 million, $200 million in the bank, have been moving to Puerto Rico because of Law 20 and 22. I have a huge document that will talk about everything that I'm going to mention today. And if you want, you can just give me your card when we're done and I'll send it to you. We've produced a manual, but Law 2022 has created this influx of, today it's about 1,200 high net worth individuals who have been moving to Puerto Rico. They have to live 183 days of the year. But once they move to Puerto Rico, they will pay zero capital gains taxes, assuming they're US citizens. Now that's a big incentive. And this has been driving a new class of entrepreneurs and individuals to the island. The Law 2022 today is compounded with a government that is extremely pro-business. This is the first time in 20 years that we have a government that wants private investment to come. We've got billions of dollars of federal grants and subsidies, close to $80 billion that are coming to the island of Puerto Rico as a result of the hurricanes. That does not include $20 billion of private and public insurance. So today, for the first time in 12 years, Puerto Rico will show a positive economic growth, upwards of 3%, and we're expecting that 2020 fiscal year will have a 5 to 7% positive economic growth. These numbers are staggering, because when you combine these numbers with the tourism tax incentive that provides up to 40% of your investment on hotels and tourism product back to you, and other really exciting tax incentives, we're seeing Puerto Rico today, the opportunities in Puerto Rico today are incredible.
Very good. That's exciting stuff to learn about Puerto Rico. So, you know, obviously the title of the panel is sort of regional market trends. Is the Caribbean as hot as reported? Obviously, some areas are hotter than others, and one of the ones that come to mind automatically as having a lot of development going on and growth in the hotel and resort and condominium sector is the Turks and Caicos Islands. So maybe Turks and Caicos doesn't have the same kind of tax incentives for Americans to own or invest there, but obviously there must be some reason why Turks and Caicos is so hot right now. So maybe, Stephen, if you could just kind of enlighten us on what investors are finding exciting about Turks at the moment.
Well, first of all, I have to ask Adam, what's tax? The Turks and Caicos Islands is a tax-free jurisdiction. And I mean tax-free. What's hot in Turks and Caicos Islands? Well, I would say that investors are being focused to look on whether they want to take a management company to look after their property, or whether they want to stay with this model that obviously has grown exponentially over the last few years of direct renting through Vrbo, as I understand it's now called, Airbnb and HomeAway. And we've seen a lot of litigation in the Turks and Caicos Islands with hotels which have management companies that are owned by the original developer or by a majority of owners who have set up their own hotel management companies, seeking to drive out people who are looking to direct rent through platforms like Airbnb, which is in and of itself creating opportunities for investment and for development, because we see that there is an advantage to marketing a development that is going to give you freedom to rent yourself. Now, there are obvious reasons why developments would like to drive out people who are direct renting, because the developers have invested a lot of money in a management company that spends a lot of money on cleaning services and property management services, and they don't want to see those numbers diminish by people taking advantage of those services but not paying for them. But I understand that this is a hot topic around the world. I was speaking to Matt Soul down there, who's in real estate in Manhattan, where I understand in Manhattan, Airbnb is against the law. Now, we certainly haven't made Airbnb or Vrbo or HomeAway illegal in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And indeed, what we're seeing as a huge growth area in the Turks and Caicos Islands is luxury villas. and a growth of management companies looking to assist people with investments in luxury villas, such as Jerry Dallas's company. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I have to say, though, like in terms of the tax situation, very well put. You know, the problem is, of course, as Americans, we have to pay taxes worldwide unless you're living there. You get, living over offshore, you get a certain amount of breaks. But I appreciate your point. Just as a matter of note, our company puts out market reports that studies the hotel performance throughout the Caribbean region. And, I think right now, for 2018, for the year 2018 overall, the average daily rate of hotels throughout the Caribbean, as reported by STR, was around $275, $280 a night. If you look at Turks and Caicos, it's over $1,400 a night average for properties in Turks and Caicos. Now, mind you, you have to take into account that the ones that are reporting those statistics are high-end condominium resorts because that's what's prevalent there. But when you read the news reports about the growth in arrivals and growth in construction of the hotel and resort sector in Turks and Caicos, what's happening there is quite astounding.
Well, I mean, what is, as I said, the massive growth area in terms of construction is the high-end villas, such as these that you can see on the photographs behind, which are going for $10,000 a night.
Right. Exactly.
But is there anybody here who doesn't know anything about the Turks and Caicos Islands? 10 years ago, I would have expected half the audience to have put their hands up. That's how much we've come into the fray. But the reminders of why we're so great. We're only 3 hours away from New York. We're only just over an hour away from Miami. Our currency is the US dollar. And we are ultimately ruled, which people seem to feel is safe, although I'm not sure post-Brexit that they might feel the same way, but ultimately ruled by the United Kingdom, but with our own autonomous government on the ground.
Yep.
Can you take a court case to England or
The ultimate court of appeal from the Turks and Caicos Islands is the Privy Council in London.
Which is like the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so let's move on to the Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic is obviously the largest hotel and resort market. It's the largest tourism market in the Caribbean. It's massive. Over 6,000 hotel rooms under construction right now, which will grow their hotel inventory by over 8% in the next 3 years once all these resorts get built. That's quite astounding. So given the fact that hotel and resort development is so blossoming right now in the DR, Anders, I know your role is a bit more on the private villa rental side, luxury condos and villas. Is that as hot in the DR as the hotel development is, and why?
It is, absolutely. I mean, over the last 10 years, when I started doing villa rentals down in the Dominican Republic, there was probably, in the Punta Cana region, maybe 100 villas available for rent between Punta Cana and up to Casa de Campo. So that's kind of in a 60-mile stretch. Now, we have over 1,000 villas for rent in the same region. So it's really changed the whole market segment over the last couple of years. I mean, tourism has exploded. Just from South Florida going into Punta Cana, we have 8 or 9 flights daily between Miami and Fort Lauderdale. So the ease of getting there is just amazing. The same goes for any major city on the northeast coast. It's just easy to get there. As you said, the hotel industry is exactly the same way. Everywhere you turn, there's new hotels coming up. If we've been gone for a month, going back to Denmark, where I'm originally from, and we come back, all of a sudden you see 2 new projects that have started, new condominiums going up everywhere. And what's really significant about the Dominican Republic is really the infrastructure is there, but also the price point. You were talking about $10,000 a night for villas in the Caymans.
Turks.
Sorry, Turks. I apologize. And we have exactly that market also, but you have multi-million-dollar villas that you can rent for $1,500 a night. 6 bedrooms, chef, maid, butlers, right on the beaches and on the golf courses. It's just an affordable place to go. And whether you're coming for a wedding, a bachelor party, a family retreat, there's something for everybody. And I really don't think the villa and condo industry affects the hotel, because the type of traveler, in my opinion, is very, very different. Most of our clients would never even consider going to a hotel. So if you're coming as a couple, great, a hotel will work for you. But if you're coming with a group of friends and you want to be by yourself, a 1,000-room hotel is not the place to go. So for that, I really think the Dominican has something kind of for everybody.
Yeah, and you mentioned it being a good value for being able to go there and vacation and rent luxury villas. What about investing in terms of the price point? You know, I mean, you think of the Dominican Republic possibly as being potentially a good place to invest in terms of value for money. I mean, obviously you have potentially lower construction costs there, maybe lower land costs as well for you know, resort area land. You know, what do you have any sort of feel for what the price point per square foot would be for luxury villas to invest in?
Sure, absolutely. We actually just listed yesterday a couple of our properties with the agency here, so they'll be coming out to all of you over the next few days. But we have a 10,000 square foot villa sitting on the golf course in the exclusive Punta Cana Resort and Club. It's listed at $2.6 million. We do about $300,000 a year in rental income in that property. Let's say the owner is going to net out somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 a year. So for a fairly insignificant investment, you have a place that's very high end to go. We've had clients like Michael Douglas, Catherine Zeta-Jones stay in that villa. Many NFL players, NBA players. So you can really get high-end real estate at an affordable price, generating a decent return, and still having enough of a luxury feel for pretty much anybody in the high-end segment. But on top of that, you have everything in the Dominican. You can also go back and find a $150,000 condo, 2-bedroom condo, downtown, close to nightlife, close to everything, which is still just as high-end as a good condo in Miami. It's not beachfront, but it's in the middle of the city, close to everything. In the tourism region, you can generate 8 to 10% a year from the rental program on those as well. So there is really something for everybody there.
What sort of occupancy rates are you seeing for like villas and condos for rent?
All depending on what the properties are built for, because there's owners that built a property for them with their style, and that's not necessarily what the rental market is looking for. So if you go out and you look at building a property that's specifically targeting what the tourist wants for a rental, 150 to 180 to 200 nights a year is typically where we can run those properties. And I always try to do a price point for the rental business at somewhere about between $200 and $300 per bedroom per night. Once you get much higher than that, you are at the same level as the most high-end hotels, and it significantly impacts the amount of clients that are interested in renting your property. So $200 to $300 a day is a good margin to make it affordable, because then you still have to pay for groceries and excursions and all the other stuff. And that kind of keeps everybody in the mix. Of course, you have the higher end oceanfront, $10,000 a night properties as well, but they'll rent 30 days a year. And for me, running a business, or for an owner, that's not a good investment.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, so I'd like to come back to Puerto Rico for a few minutes. You know, on the valuation side, one of the things that's a hot topic in our industry right now, in our profession, is the concept of opportunity zones. And does that add value to real estate in areas in the U.S. where that happens? And Puerto Rico is obviously, as you know, a U.S. territory, and I think the vast majority of Puerto Rico has been designated an opportunity zone. So Adam, can you tell us a little bit about what that is, how does it work, and how does it benefit investors?
We like to say that Puerto Rico is the only place in the United States where you can buy and take advantage of opportunity zone funding and buy beachfront land. Opportunity zone funding, as many of you know, is essentially funding that will have some tax benefits, specifically capital gains tax benefits. It seems to be replacing what is the 1031 exchange, or at least supplementing it. Most of the opportunity zones in the U.S. tend to be depressed areas and cities and towns. However, in Puerto Rico, you can buy beautiful beachfront resort properties, build out luxury hotels, and still be able to qualify for opportunity zone funding. 97% of the island of Puerto Rico has been designated an opportunity zone. And I think what's most interesting is compared to the both locations that we're talking about today, prices in Puerto Rico are still, and I repeat, are still at 20 to 30% on the dollar, meaning that for a decade, Puerto Rico's prices have been going down. And as we speak today, still in 2019, you can buy land at 75% discount. So it's a fire sale. It is the time to go and buy properties that have not even been on the market for generations.
What sort of exciting new projects are being proposed right now, particularly on the heels of the Act 2022, those types of investors? Are there some exciting projects you can talk about coming up?
15 years ago, the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico had about the same amount of hotel rooms. It was about 15,000 hotel rooms. I believe today the Dominican Republic is over 40,000. Puerto Rico has actually diminished. It has close to 13,000 hotel rooms. It is a low-hanging fruit. The GDP in Puerto Rico that's tourism-based is less than 7%. I believe the number, according to Carla Campos, the head of tourism, is 6.75%. Tourism, meaning Puerto Rico has no tourism industry today, and it's a Caribbean island where any of these two islands, the GDP of tourism is going to be upwards of 60, 70%. In some islands, like Jamaica, it's even higher. The low-hanging fruit in Puerto Rico is to build hotels, resorts, any kind of hospitality product. We're seeing a lot of big investors like Paulson pick up multiple hotel properties. He's built the Vanderbilt. He's built La Concha. He's very active in Rio Grande with the Bahia product and several other large resort properties. So my guess is if 10 years from now we sit and we say we have the same panel, I'll say the Dominican Republic will be about 60,000 hotel rooms. You guys are doing really good. But I'd say Puerto Rico will go from its 15,000 or so inventory up to about 35 to 40,000. So the big growth you're going to see is in tourism. It's a low-hanging fruit. Puerto Rico should easily be about 15% to 20% of its GDP tourism-based.
Anders, question for you. Are there any new locations within the DR that are becoming hot? Because obviously, we know of the major hubs there. Is there any new towns, new resorts coming up that people are looking to flock towards?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, everybody, of course, knows Punta Cana. And Punta Cana is this major tourism hub where it's easy to get to. But apart from that, the first tourism hub was actually just outside of Santo Domingo. It was called Boca Chica, and it kind of got a really bad rep in the late 80s, early 90s, and tourism moved from there to the north coast of Puerto Plata. And Puerto Plata then started going downhill when Punta Cana came online. The Dominican government has actually done major renovations to the Puerto Plata area, and it is one of the areas that is up and coming again. A lot of the old hotels have completely been refurbished, are being redone, new properties coming up on the beaches. So Puerto Plata is up and coming. I think we're still another 5 to 7 years away from Puerto Plata being back to being a major player. There's still not that many airlifts to get there. But it's definitely coming back between Puerto Plata, Sosua, Cabarete, which has always had that a little bit surfer tourism, the cheaper tourism, but it's really being changed. Major brands are coming into that side of the island and putting up luxury, American-known product on the beaches there. So that's up and coming. One of the places that is kind of a little bit of a hidden gem is the whole Samaná Peninsula with Las Terrenas and Samaná on the south side. There's still hardly any flights to get there. So right now you're flying into Santo Domingo and you're driving 2.5 hours across. But they have a brand new airport. They're actually direct flights both from Canada and from Europe. But from America, there's only one JetBlue every 3 days or something. But it's up and coming. And it's where we that live in the Dominican, if we want to get away from the hustle and bustle, we go there. They have some of the most beautiful beaches. They have some of the most pristine locations. This is where the whales come to breed in the wintertime, so you can go out and see the humpback whales, beautiful waterfalls, and it's up and coming. There's so much beautiful condominium and small villa projects that are on the beaches there. So something that you don't really characterize as the major tourism hubs, but it's coming, and there will be more flights coming into there. So I don't know if that kind of answered a little bit of what you were looking for.
Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, I think we were about out of time, if not more so, so I really appreciate your attention, and thanks once again. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you.